also like to find ways to simplify things.
Andy Charalambous is a VFX and 3D animation expert, as well as the founder of EOS Organisation, a graphic design and post-production agency based in Paris.
Actually, more businessmen you do talk to, especially of an older age with that experience, you'll find out that they are a little bit more conservative in that sense, where they do trust their gut feeling.
Are you not worried about the fact that AI will take over graphic design?
I think there is a very good chance within 5 years' time, what I do will not be needed. I'll try to find a different venture of which I'm excited in.
So what you're saying, instead of creating like a video from scratch, you can just get a prompt generated by one AI, put it to another AI that then draws it for you. And then what's the point of having the skill set that you've developed a decade of your life?
Yeah, so it put me under that massive question mark.
There was a news report earlier this year that AI has completed all of the available information that's out there, and it has now collected it. So the step from here is not to collect and process more information, but to rather learn by itself.
So I think what's so scary about it, because you might have like the best idea today, but based on how quickly the whole landscape is evolving, within 3 years' time, you might literally not be making anything. But on what you said, that's why it's also a little bit important to be diversified, and just like if you've made 300K in 6 months, of course, spend some money on R&D and try to develop the business, but do keep some money around, whether it is for maybe a new venture in case it fails, or invest it in somewhere a bit safer, so forth.
I mean, I really agree with your approach. Being also from business background, in my opinion, diversification is so important, because anything that you believe in can just break down for any reason. Government regulations, war, some kind of global crisis, change in trends, whatever it is that you're doing really well at, there's no guarantee that tomorrow it will be still the same. Even the S&P 500, people say, are not going to be around forever. So, I mean, I really agree with that. I think people, when it's the first time that they're exposed to large sums of money, it's very hard to make good financial decisions, because half the people buy a new car and that immediately depreciates, and you lose a big lump of it. Others that are very entrepreneurial and ambitious, maybe do what I said, and that's also a mistake. It would make for a very good financial decision, in my opinion, to take 30% and put it in a savings account and only play around with the other 70%. But I think there's a bit of that competitiveness that comes into every entrepreneur's mind, where it's like, you wish you had twice the amount to put into advertisement, but okay, I'll settle with what I have and I'll take a loan. You seem very secure in what you're doing. Are you not worried about the fact that AI will take over graphic design?
I think I'm quite worried. I think there is a very good chance within 5 years' time, what I do will not be needed. But what I'm not worried about is my footing into all of this. Whether AI takes over what it is that I'm doing, I'll try to find a different venture of which I'm excited in and put myself into, immerse myself into. Might take some time, but just as it can take over my landscape, my line of work, it can literally take over a good 60 to 70% of work that's out there right now. Anything from admin to tech to finance to pitch sales. I've even heard people saying teachers will be replaced because AI will be a better teacher. Obviously, I think that's a rather extreme opinion. But,
that's pretty extreme, but I see with the argument.
Yeah. So my idea is that, okay, if I'm getting to the point where I'm getting replaced, I will not be the only one, and there will be a new line of opportunity that's coming in. But I use X a lot. It's the only social media that I use, let's say. But basically, what I like doing on X is following extreme radical left-wing people, and then extreme radical conservative right-wing people.
Interesting.
So I get a massive influx of every single opinion on the entire diagram.
Yeah.
And basically, there are some very, very pro-AI Marxists who are also of the opinion that the entire landscape of how we know works to be will change. You've got about 5 years to make the best out of what you've got right now. And then after that, we'll have to see where it's headed or what it will do and so forth and so forth. So basically, there's this graph where from 2021, in every AI IQ test, AI's IQ was around about 70 to 80.
Not too bad.
Which is quite good, but which is why we were kind of neglecting it right before that, right? So imagine it from 2015, this massive data set just collects more data. Inherently, it becomes smarter. So from 2021, where it got rather widely adopted until 2025, AI's got an average IQ of like 110 to 120 right now.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
a lot of these people are saying that the reason why it doesn't feel like such a big difference is because that's the range in which humans have, from 80 to 120, unless you're like special or you've lost some chromosomes. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. But basically, that's why we don't really notice the massive change in what AI has done right now. But in the next few years, AI will be at 130, 140, 150. And that's when you will know that it's drastically, incredibly better than you. Because right now, I know it can do data better than you and so forth. But there are a lot of people who are like, yeah, but can it be creative? But yeah, can it do my job? And my opinion is it will be able to do your job. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's like a very big thing to think about on having a literal AI agent working for you, or like your assistant is a person with maybe like twice as much as your IQ is. I don't believe too much in the notion of an IQ, but
it's a good metric.
It's got a good foundation.
Just for example's sake,
So if you're able to put your brain into compiling some of these results, even to a small extent, of a person or a robot that's got the capacity of like 170, 180, 200 IQ, who knows where we'll be at?
It's very fascinating. The trajectory certainly goes this way. There's also a world in which AI has collected, like there was a news report earlier this year that AI has completed all of the available information that's out there, and it has now collected it. So the step from here is not to collect and process more information, but to rather learn by itself. AI hasn't seemed... Yeah, what do you think about it? Will that go this way?
It's a good... well, that's where I don't have much...
Mic touch closer?
Yeah.
You can move it around just to make it
No,
comfortable.
it's okay. I'm leaning a little bit
backward.
backward.
You can lean back. It's very flexible. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be good. Whatever's best.
So, I don't have too much of an opinion on that.
Yeah.
Because I just genuinely don't know how that will go or what trajectory that will follow.
Yeah.
But I have heard that opinion a lot, and I do think it has quite the basis. There's this friend of mine who's a software engineer, and he also tells me like we're going to run out of computing power in terms of hardware as well.
Okay.
Yeah, which is, I'm not very knowledgeable, so I will not get more into that, but rather... there is a question that arises out of this, is like, okay, when you have compiled the entire data set of known data to the world, will it be enough to expand knowledge towards more data of any avail? And my opinion, if you were to simplify it like that, is yes.
Okay, I see that. And where do you see it moving specifically in your industry? Do you see that like a potential total takeover? Do you see that the top 1% of graphic designers will remain in business and they will be like ultra-massive earners because they'll be the one running AI? Do you not see much intervention? Like if you had to make a bet, how do you think it will develop from here?
So I guess as an investor, it's nice to not take like a one side kind of thing. But if I had to guess or assume where it could go, it would mostly be AI will take a massive portion of people's works in my industry for sure. And there will be an amount, I don't know to what extent, 1, 3, 5, 10, if it's like 100 now, that will be making very good money. I think there is a very compelling argument of people wanting authenticity and people wanting like that real touch, real feeling, real story, and so forth. So I think the people who've accumulated all of that experience alongside their technical knowledges will be able to, even with the aid of AI, because it's not linear, right? It's just like you can still use AI within your work, and because you've an established brand, people will still value your input over like a junior coming out of school.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think people who are smart about it, integrate it into their workflows and pipelines in a way that is accepted on an industry level, will probably have an edge right now into creating and generating much more money than everyone else in the industry. Funnily enough, the boom of VFX and 3D was in 1997.
Yeah.
A lot of it started from here in London. And the first VFX studios that ever opened were in London.
Really?
Yeah. And in my industry, there was this boom from 97 to 2007, where a lot of the studios that were opening were massively successful because we went from absolutely zero VFX to them being the highest earning movies in the world. So
and what's VFX?
VFX is visual effects. So like if you're looking at Superman, Avengers, Spider-Man, all of these have like these effects where buildings break, there's fire, there's water, there's simulations, all these kind of things. It all started, let's say, with Jurassic Park. And yeah. So if you look at the chart for top 50 movies in terms of how much money they make, they're all very heavy into visual effects.
Really? That's a very interesting... Well, I guess Avatar is a fantastic example. That must like be a lot of VFX, right?
Yeah, it's completely... It's just VFX. It's a live action, but almost everything in that film is like VFX.
So interesting. And the top 50, most of them have like a big VFX presence.
Yeah, almost all of them. I went through the chart and I think there's only one film that doesn't have...
Why do you think that is?
I think it's very simple. People like seeing flashy stuff.
Yeah, like the dopamine release. It's memorable. It's unique.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's fucking cool.
Yes. I like that. And is that so? We mentioned earlier that you have a potential Netflix contract coming up. Is that potentially what you will do for them? How will that work?
Yes. So it will be a 3D animated pilot, of which we will be doing simulations and visual effects. It's got to do with Greek mythology. So imagine it...
Oh, cool. Yeah, you're related to that.
Yeah. So imagine it a little bit like a twist of Harry Potter, sci-fi Greek mythology. So like modern day Greek mythology, a lot of visual effects, a lot of 3D characters and so forth. So yeah, we're super excited to hopefully get this contract. We're still
How does one go from starting their visual effects agency, and you said you even dropped out of uni? Did I get that right?
I did, but that was not for this degree. So I dropped out of business school. Okay,
well, that's probably a good decision. I don't know many people that finished business school and have necessarily...
Yeah, depends who you ask. If you ask my father, probably not a good idea.
Okay, that's fair enough. You mean like to drop out is not a good idea?
Yeah, from business school.
Do you know many people that finished a business degree? And we'll go back to the topic. I'm just curious because do you know many people that finished a business degree and have like a good career following that?
So
that don't have support from their parents.
Yeah. So I went to a good business school.
Yeah.
It's like top 50 in the world.
Oh, cool.
In the Netherlands.
Cool.
And I kept in touch with about 5 to 6 people.
Yeah.
I'm only in touch with like one guy who worked as a consultant after school. And he's now doing really, really well.
Okay, good.
Without the influence or like aid of his parents. However, he probably went above and beyond what business degrees offer. He kind of like entrepreneurially became a top tier employee.
Cool.
Finding that pathway a little bit more himself. Of course, the degree helps, but rather he paved his path into that a little bit more. Like, my other friend is like a real estate agent, which you can be without necessarily having like a business degree per se. Like there's other ways you can venture into real estate.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic to me because I also finished a business degree, and it's really tough after it. I feel like people that finish like a medical degree or an engineering degree or a law degree, they have a very clear path on what to do next.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to hear that there's optimistic examples as well. But yeah, most people I know that finish the business degree either go into something very unrelated and are successful not because of the degree, but because of their entrepreneurial nature. And they said, oh, the degree was a good time to bootstrap a couple businesses. That's promising. And then I wanted to go back to VFX. So how does one go from starting their agency to potentially landing a Netflix contract?
Well, in that sense, there's not a lot into that. It's just about building every day.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for about a year right now.
Okay, so. And after a year, you got the Netflix contract? You're about to get it? That's incredible.
Yeah, it's not that long. I've not been doing it for that long, in all fairness. So, yeah, it's not like I've been... it's not like went from completely ground zero. On a contextual basis before... so my father is a businessman, and so... for me, I wanted to see value in what it is I was doing, and in very many ways... in my dad's eyes, I'm sorry for the straightforwardness, but an arts degree is completely useless in very many ways. And there was a time where I had a little bit of contempt to that, but
you managed to turn it around, right? Because you made a business out of it.
Sure. But in very many ways, I also can definitely see that. I see it from a lot of people who I went to school with.
Yeah.
But basically what I'm trying to get at is before I went to the school that I graduated in here in London, I wanted to get into a really good school. This school is number 2 in arts and design in the world.
Awesome.
With a 90% employment rate within 6 months after graduating, which was probably what sold me into getting into the school. So I thought to myself, okay, if I'm doing an arts degree, at least I can get a job from it. But then, I found myself enjoying the process a lot. I found myself being in a landscape with crypto as well, where I saw multiple opportunities on a daily. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm in uni, I'm making some money right now. I might as well try and go full scale with it, alongside getting employed being incredibly tough. So I also applied to a few jobs. I actually interviewed at some very big companies, didn't get the job, which would be probably one of the few jobs that I would have gotten. Did not get these jobs. Expecting to, building right now to see where that can get to, or how I can get to the point where I want to get within the brand I'm building as a VFX agency.
Before we get into crypto, I'm just really curious. What does that conversation look like when you're discussing a potential contract with Netflix? It just sounds so cool. Do they reach out a message to you? Is that like Netflix with that blue tick that sends you a message? What does that look like?
No, it doesn't look like that at all. So we are not like in discussions with Netflix ourselves.
Right.
So our client, who is of this world, has a lot of producers that are very closely in touch with Netflix.
Right.
So if it were to become a Netflix show, we would practically have zero involvement in something like that. And what is more reliant on us is getting it to the quality where it would be approved by a studio like Netflix or like an enterprise like Netflix.
Oh, that's a great way to looking at it. So focusing on the quality.
Yeah. Wow. The only thing is like when we're pitching to this client, it's not just about making it look fancy and nice. What we do is like project management as well, where we do lots of research on how this guy can make his money back by investing big amounts in us.
Okay.
So within part of the presentation, or like what I think is key into getting contracts like that, is if someone's investing their money in you, they just want to make more.
Yeah,
so what we're focusing a lot on is making sure we give our clients enough confidence that we will be able to get them the green light for a quality that Netflix is seeking, and also that he will get his ROI, whether it is with Netflix or without. So we're also giving them quite a few options here and there. For example, in the contract that we pitched to them, we also give them a possibility of like a cheaper scenario where we retain about 50% of the rights of the IPs. which tells them that we're incredibly confident that if you don't want to pay, let's say, the full amount, we think we can generate more than that if we were to have the rights of the characters. And then they, that's
and
like,
they end up buying the whole thing
yeah.
because you show that confidence. Gosh, I love your business model. Really, sometimes like I look at various businesses, and in the business world, everybody's super opinionated, and I'm not an exception. And I'm just like screaming like, I would do this so differently. I love what you're saying. Focus on quality and focusing on like, what is it like from the investor's eyes? I wish I was your client, man. I have nothing to do with VX. Maybe a part of some.
If you ever need an advertisement or something to do with 3D in any way, can always reach out.
Yeah, because it sounds awesome. Wow. And do you think it's a bit of influence from your family's background, or is it your own independent thoughts? How do you come to this business model? What it's a very broad question, but like, what are your, let's say, core values when you run your business? What's your style?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question. I think when it comes to being an entrepreneur or doing business in general, there's not like one set way of doing things. And I guess like where my values would lie is like, I want to make sure I'm doing something that I enjoy, where I feel purpose in it alongside me and my team. We are working very seriously, so there is a very, very big working culture. Whoever I'm hiring, whether it is even on an outsourcing basis, I kind of want them invested in the idea of which it is that I'm doing. So I'm a little bit, maybe you're like a better recruit for me than the person to your left. But if you're not necessarily invested in what it is that I'm doing from like an overall project kind of basis,
yeah,
I might be a little bit more reluctant in hiring you, and I would probably hire someone of which is excited to work on something like this, because I think that will yield the best results. So when we first started this, I started with about 9 people who were all rather willing to participate in it. I guess like from my family comes the coldness of like being able to make tough decisions.
It's important.
Yeah. So very quickly of starting the business, I was assessing every single person within the company and seeing how much do they want this to work. And I kicked everyone but 2 people.
Yeah.
So we went from 9 to 3, and I noticed that our productivity levels increased probably 200 to 300 times more.
With the less people, or by
just the 3 people?
Wow,
yeah.
that's huge.
And the main reason why I kept those is because they were genuinely invested in this idea and they wanted to make it work. So they were like that kind of like crazy / radical person who would be willing to earn much less for the time being, but they could see the potential that could come after that. They could see and I know that's very rare, and I know a lot of people may be in worse or better positions, so some people have other responsibilities to take care of and so forth. But it's just a little bit of craziness that we aforementioned that I like people having. I want you to be a bit crazy in believing in what it is we're doing. So in that sense, I enjoy when people are into what they're doing, when they're immersed, not just in my business. If you're able to pitch me your business and I can see, so that's where my intention would be, that genuine excitement and curiosity, not just like you're trying to sell me to get like $1 million out of me, but you like this, you enjoy this. It's where I would genuinely, or like with the Chinese, you give them some wine, and then if they like your personality or your character, then they'll go on with the business side of things. So I genuinely enjoy that. It's very important for me to be hardworking. I live in France now, and they work 35 hours a week.
Yes, that changed. It was 37 a couple of years ago, and now it's 35.
Yeah, and then the more north you go, the less hours they work. And like in Austria, they've got startups. They're funded by the government, but they genuinely like don't work that much. And for me, it's like, wow, like how do you compete? How do you keep up? Because I know since I went to school, I've been putting in 12-hour shifts, and I'm not even really ahead of anyone. I'm just like right to just about covering that kind of point. So I think like realistically, we're not smarter than anyone. Nobody is like, okay, some people are geniuses, but then still in the business world, I genuinely think it's like very important to put in the hours, put in the effort, lose a bunch of times, like know where you're at and know where you're headed. And in terms of like my business model or how I lead, it's mostly like how other people see, how I see other people run their businesses, reading quite a few business books, very basic ones like Peter Thiel and Robert Kiyosaki, for example. But just to get the core fundamentals.
Then experience, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I find it fascinating that so many businesses are not open on Sundays. Wow, it seems like, at least from my business, we generate like 30% of weekly revenue on a Saturday and then 20% on a Sunday. That's 50% over 2 days.
Yeah.
And then the other 50% Monday to Friday. But then everywhere I look, shops close early, supermarkets close early. Like in Switzerland, supermarkets close generally. People don't buy groceries on Sundays. What do you think of that? How so?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I'm also rather surprised by it. I think people are very fixated on notions and social norms, right? So even just like on what I aforementioned, you have to do a lot of hours. That is also a preconception in very many ways. So like you said, if the entirety of your revenue on like your weekly basis comes from just 2 days, wouldn't it be just much more ideal to have these 2 days rather than whatever doesn't work and so forth and so forth? But I think people like working towards what things that are considered acceptable and so forth. So there may be a lot of businesses that could generate more Saturdays, Sundays, but because of whether it's government regulation or people don't like working on the weekends because that's like the preconception of when we go out on a social basis, they don't want to do that. So it becomes harder.
But then most businesses, such as supermarkets, it's not the people that are making the policy that are necessarily working on the weekends. So is it like an ethical move where they don't want their employees to miss out on the social preconception of going out on Sundays? Is it a staffing issue that they like find it easier to hold staff by them not working on Sunday? Where do you think that comes from? Because like I don't work on Sundays, but my business is open on Sundays and we make a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
There are some staffing issues, but I think it's better to work those out rather than miss out on the revenue. And I think it's like this in other places. What do you think?
Yeah, I've not thought about it too much. My business is also open on Sundays. My conception of like weekdays and weekends is rather distorted in that sense. Yeah, I mean, if I want to go out, I'll go out. What's beautiful about like, having the freedom to do this is like, okay, if someone invites me on a Wednesday morning, I can join them. Or if someone invites me on a Saturday night, I have that flexibility to join them. But it's not really based on like whether it's a Saturday or a Wednesday. I'll just work around that by just like working all the other hours and accepting that invite. But like, I don't know, in the case of supermarkets or like the general aspect of businesses, from an ethical standpoint, it's nice for people to have a day off, at least a day off. I've worked in hospitality for a long time as well, especially while in school. And these are very tough jobs.
Of course.
So I don't know. In terms of these businesses, I think it's like very important to have some days off, whether it's a Monday or a Sunday or any kind of day. Now, whether they make more money during this or that day, I know for sure grocery stores would be making a lot of money on Sundays. It makes so much more sense for them to be open on a Sunday because that's when people don't work in general. Yeah. But that's just like as much as I can offer in that.
So potentially an ethical decision just to make sure that everybody are not working.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Like in France, there was this podcast, and like I told you before, I don't know how people get ahead if they don't put in the hours, but there are a lot of very, very difficult jobs at the same time, which, of course, every job is difficult, but the less lack of purpose you have, or the more lack of purpose you've got in the job, the harder it can be for you to participate in it and so forth.
Interesting. The less purpose, the more difficult to participate.
Yes, I think so. And because your job might be much more tiring, whether it's physical or mental labor, you might be like completely dying. but the output that you get from that is much, much higher than what you would get from a person who's just an employee at a bar or a grocery store, which they give no shits about, excuse my language. So it's very easy to fall into a very difficult mental state in jobs like that. So I think it's incredibly important for people, especially in this genre, to have their breaks. For example, I'll tell you something that I found completely ridiculous, but I understand it and I think it's quite nice. Yep. So there's a lot of people in France, they've got their unemployment benefits. Yeah. And essentially in France, if you work more than 4 months, you are entitled the equivalent of that in unemployment benefits up to about 70%, depending on you can't go to very, very high amounts. But if it's I think even until 3,000, you get up about 70% of that. And there was this podcast actually of this woman who went on the news with this liberal guy, and she told him, I can't understand how people work for a year and then they take a year off and they just enjoy the unemployment benefits. So he just told her, okay, cool, I'll invite you.
How big are the unemployment benefits? Do you know?
How big?
Yeah.
So let's say you're making 2K at a restaurant per month. You are getting 70% of that.
And that's sponsored by the government, not
that is completely sponsored by the government, yes.
Wow, okay.
And if you've done 4 months, you can not work for 4 months. And if you've done 2 years, it goes up until 2 years. So you can literally be unemployed for 2 years if you worked for 2 years in a row.
Okay.
So I don't, of course, some people take advantage of it, but
I feel like I would work, not to incriminate myself, but I feel like I would work for cash, say that I'm unemployed and get 1.5K, 1.5x on the money. Feels like a very easy system to exploit.
Yeah, and it can be. That's where I don't know that much about it up until what I told you. I only went there 2 months ago, so I'm not sure as to the exploitations, but I know they do exploit it. For example, I was living in Athens for a few months, and I met quite a few French people who were quite literally on unemployment benefits
Athens.
From France.
From France.
So you can imagine very different GDPs, very different incomes. So a French person's unemployment benefits can have much higher yields in terms of having a good life in a city like Athens.
That is so interesting. Are you allowed to get from a legal point of view, allowed to get benefits if you leave the country?
I think no, you're not.
So they're saying that they're still a resident of France and potentially being somewhere else.
Yeah,
it's interesting. My camera died. Let me fix that, and I want to talk more about this. Very interesting. And we're back. So you live in France now.
Yes.
You've lived in Cyprus before, and then you've lived in London, and now you've moved to Paris.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about how you approach moving from country to country. Are you planning to stay in Paris long term? Your job obviously allows you to travel. Do you focus on making connections with people? Do you like exploring the city? Talk me through what it's like to change places.
Yeah, so I've actually lived in 7 countries in the last 7 years.
No way. What are they?
Morocco, Portugal, Netherlands, Greece, United Kingdom, France, Australia.
You lived in Australia as well?
Yeah.
That's gorgeous. And Cyprus, was that earlier?
Yes. So that's that's before 18. But yes, also grew up in Cyprus.
Right.
Yeah, now with France, I guess that's 8 now.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that about you. What is it like?
So I had a massive hunger of curiosity to get to meet all kinds of cultures, all kinds of people. When I went to business school, I left Cyprus and I went to the Netherlands. And I went to that school, and my main purpose was to meet as many people as possible as I can outside from my culture and my country. And I succeeded in that, which I think it's very funny. Sometimes life can be very probabilistic and random. I like to, if it makes sense to me, I'll do that. So for example, I saw zero value in my business school, and My dad supported me until that time, and I told him, like I don't know how I feel about this and so forth. And I met this woman, and she was like, I took a gap year before coming here. I was working in Australia, and I was making 4K AUD per month. And coming from
That's good.
It's very
for
good.
Straight out of university.
No, she wasn't even in. She didn't even go to school. She just had like a normal job.
What kind of job?
Like working at a bar or something like that. Yeah, a 4K AUD.
It's about $2,500, right?
Yeah. So it is a little bit less, but it's still a lot. So me at the time being like 18, 19 years old, I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe that could be like a venture I could look into. At first, I wasn't sure if she was like being honest with me. So I did my research, and I told myself I'll give school a good 2 months or 3 months. I had my exams coming up.
That's not too generous.
And like fully focus on my exams and see if I feel like I could make something nice out of this. Did my exams. Didn't do so well, but I figured it's because I genuinely couldn't put myself through it. I genuinely did not enjoy this process. So I thought to myself, okay, fuck it. You know what? I'm going to make my own journey. I'm going to decide what I'm doing from now on, and it's going to be fully my decisions. So I quit my job, I quit school, university, took like a shitty bartending job in Cyprus, saved just about enough to buy my ticket and to live for a few weeks in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Went to a hostel in Australia and just asked the people, what do you guys do for money here? And I literally just found like a job at a farm, like 2 weeks being in Australia. After that, worked in a bar and so forth and so forth. And I just thought to myself, then COVID hit. I did about 10 months in Australia, did the entire East Coast. I don't know if you know the geography.
I've only been to Sydney for 1 day and then Tasmania for another day. So I'm very unfamiliar with Australia.
Okay. But basically
What's the East Coast? What cities is that?
The East Coast is just the entire side. So like Melbourne, Sydney, and you can go up.
Cool. And so you worked in different places or you just traveled?
I just changed jobs every 3 months and took like 2 months to see the place more from like a enjoying standpoint.
It's gorgeous. What made you want to necessarily, go and do that rather than pursue a maybe more traditional university work and the general hustle after that?
Yeah. Well, if my dad ever sees this, I hope not. But I didn't really enjoy the line of work of which he was in at. Maybe in very many ways, I thought the business model was a little bit flawed.
What industry, if I may ask?
Transport.
Mm-hmm.
So imports and exports. I just thought to myself, okay, so I want to carve my own path. I want to figure it out myself, which is kind of like what started this whole thing. Just genuine curiosity to see where I'll find myself. Put myself in strange, unknown, random situations and see where I evolve from that. And, it's very funny and very contextually. Sometimes it can get you very many places. So also like living in Cyprus like me, it's a smaller island. The amounts of people you meet are smaller. So also like the pool that you're given is very, very important. And in very many ways, like, the less people you meet, the less you can kind of like digest in terms of information. Like even before coming to London, there were a lot of things that I had no clue what they even were up until I came here. But basically, while I was working at that farm that I mentioned earlier to you, I met this Belgian guy who he did finish his finance degree, and he was very much into stocks and so forth. So he's now, by the way, the co-director of KPMG in Australia, got a permanent move to Australia and so forth. So very successful story. But he introduced me to stocks, and he showed me how to analyze stocks in terms of profits and earnings, looking at charts, when to understand bounces, market psychology. And basically within that year of Australia, I lived in hostels. So I practically lived incredibly cheap. and everything that I had made, my logic just told me, okay, cool. You know what? In 10 years time from now, you're 19. All this hard work you've done, your salary is probably going to be much higher. You might as well just like put everything in a high risk investment and see where it goes.
Oh, wow. So you were not spending it. You were putting percentage wise. Could you give it all of it?
Yeah,
nice.
Every single penny that I
Well,
had.
you had to pay for the hostel and food, right?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I kept like a very, very small amount just to survive. But when COVID hit, I had to come back to Cyprus.
Yeah.
Which is when I paid for my flight ticket and quite literally just like invested almost everything I had a little bit before that, but that was just about as much as I had invested. COVID was around, so there was not a lot to do. So I worked for my dad a little bit, and I would just live off the money that I would work with my dad for, and everything else was invested.
That is so cool. My banker tells me I should invest into like a high risk portfolio, but I'm so clingy to the money I made. I really psychologically hate losing money. So even though I'm quite young, I've got most of my stuff in bonds.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good strategy. That's the thing for me. It's the complete opposite. And because it's yielded results, I've now built the tolerance for it. So I can get 30% drawbacks in my portfolio and not feel a thing.
No, I would kill me.
And I can even get 70% drawbacks.
Did you have that?
I had an 85% drawback in 2021, 2022.
Wow. And you're in crypto as well. So
yeah,
is that through both stocks and crypto?
Yeah, stocks and crypto. The market crashed entirely. And
oh, wait, that was when crypto was like, oh no, when was crypto 17,000? That was 2023, right?
2022.
2022, that's when that happened.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But it bottomed at around 15, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a hard time.
How did you survive that mentally?
Yeah, that was a very tough time where I was questioning a lot of my beliefs because I experienced drawbacks, but never to such a high extent.
Oh, yeah.
So I invested for the first time in 2017 with small amounts, and I caught like Ethereum going very, very high. It was, I don't know, $40 at the time, but I didn't put that much money in it. And in 2019, I started putting rather good amounts. So again, very lucky, caught that wave with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And stocks, I don't know, I was making like 4 to 10% in stocks per year, something like that. And with crypto, my money just went crazy. I don't think, 19-year-olds should be making such salaries. And it's like you said, like, especially if you're young without a lot of experience and, I don't know, making like good chunks of money at such a small age, it's hard to manage that. Yeah. And basically, when I got that drawback, my portfolio went rather high. So during its peaks, I told my parents, hey, look, I made this much money. And my dad probably even thought like, oh my God, this kid might be some kind of genius. He gave me like 5K to put in Ethereum. Ethereum was like 4.5 at the time. So I invested at the literal top for my father and my mother. So it was not a lot, 5K, it's okay. It went all the way down to $800 at some point.
From 4,500 to 800.
Yeah, it's now around that time, 3 to 4 years around that price, 3 to 4 years later. But basically, the story was did well, and I was very smart. I got a very good amount from it, and I cashed out just about enough to go to university again here in London, UK. Cool. So I paid my entire fees from what I earned from crypto. And the rest, I experienced the proper 80% pullback. But in very many ways, it's almost double to triple to what I had earned in Australia, just what I cashed out.
That's amazing. Before you got to the UK, you said you have also visited Morocco, Belgium. And did you follow a similar kind of path there where you had part-time jobs and was it different?
Yeah, so once I made like good chunks, and especially when you're young, I didn't really care about making that much money.
Yeah.
So I I volunteered for quite a bit in hostels, which is how I was able to do these places. And I served for free, both in Portugal and Morocco for 3 months each. That's how I lived in these places, basically. So done 4 months in Portugal and 3 months in Morocco as a volunteer. So my duties were just like taking people to the surf camps and then cleaning and stuff like that. So I would get free accommodation, free food, and free surfing. So I managed to do
That's a good deal.
Yeah, it was not bad at all. I was spending like 100 euros per month. So you're practically like not really spending anything. Yeah, that's it in terms of like the rest of what I did. Worked a little bit for a fintech company in Cyprus. And what else? Yeah, and prepared for my degree here in London.
Travel is one of those universal things that people find fascinating. And it's hard for me to pinpoint. So I'd love to hear what you think about it. It seems like people generally, universally, everybody like visiting new places, connecting with new cultures, experiencing new food. And even though traveling styles may be very different, some people like just having a pina colada on the beach or in the mountains, depending what their usual environment is, doing the opposite, while others like to be active and meeting people. Why do you think it's so universally loved? Because at the end of the day, you're just going to a new place. And I assume you enjoyed it as well, right?
Yes, I loved it. I can talk a lot about my experience. I think, like you said, it varies a lot. So people have very different reasons as to why they like it. I think from a very simplistic point of view, it's just an adventure, you know? How back in the days, I don't know, men went to war. There was also the thrill of uncovering new places and being somewhere they've not been before. Very different, but in a way, just like when you're a kid discovering something new, very similarly to that. And for me, I guess my love for backpacking or traveling in that sense, so more just like getting a backpack and going, started from going to Australia, because basically I come from a conservative place, Cyprus, and so there are very many cast in stone social norms. And then I met people who, I don't know, would be considered successful in a place like Cyprus, who completely went the opposite way of everything I thought was the way to do the way or to become successful.
Such as what?
Such as working at a farm and then becoming the director or co-director of KPMG.
Yeah, that's the opposite, true.
Finding their own ways to make money, their own routes, being entrepreneurs. For example, I met this guy who was Italian. He had a kid through difficult life circumstances, difficult life settings. And he realized or found out that if he's a trucker in Australia, he can get up to 12K to 15K AUD per month. So
wow.
It's insane, right? Yeah. And for a European, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And this guy was in his late 20s at the time, had a kid. So the guy needed to come up with a way to give the best of what he could to his kid. So he went from working, I don't know, a really, really bad job back in his country to coming to Australia, starting 2-3K, working his way all the way up to 12K within the year that I was there. So getting his trucking licenses to travel all over Australia. Tough job, of course.
Yeah, but it's fascinating.
Yeah. So I met and I learned about the mines before they became popular. So in the farm, I met people who even went to the mines, and they explained to me, you work for 2 weeks or sometimes 3, and then you get another week or 2 off, and your salary varies from 120 to 200.
I don't know if people still work in mines.
Yeah. Wow. It's massive in Australia, actually. The salaries are insane. You get 120 with no experience, and if you've got experience, it goes all the way up to 200K.
Wow. I wonder what the life expectancy, how much is that reduced if you work in the coal mine?
Yeah, it's there's a reason why the salaries are very high. But essentially, the mines are a little bit more difficult, but I got exposed to a completely different kind of life and different kind of ways people were starting to get money. For example, I met this guy from South America. He was a fine arts artist in Cyprus. Just impossible. And this guy focused on sexual fairies, and he would go out.
Sorry, sexual fairies.
Yeah, sexual fairies.
What is
so
that?
like fairies with big boobs or.
All right.
Yeah. And he would literally go out. His plan was he would go to high-paying countries. He would come to London. He would go to Australia.
Yeah.
He would go to the States. Completely cash, illegal.
Yes.
Go out to the street.
Of course.
The amount of money he would earn in countries like this would... so he would do it for 3 to 4 months at peak seasons in high-paying countries.
Yeah.
And then he would go back to his country for another 9 to 10 months with everything he gained from a city like London.
That's amazing.
So these incredibly alternative lifestyles, not necessarily suited to me, showed me there are no rules. You can just do what you want to do. Mostly that the lesson was there, not that I wanted to follow the people's paths, but that there are no rules. You can get to the place you want to be or want to get at without necessarily being so strict on that direction. And yeah, what we talked about before, like working very many hours, if you found a way to make your product work without putting in so many hours, that's great. It's just that in my case, I need to put in the hours. So that's why it's hard for me to conceive that someone can put 20 hours and have a completely successful product in a startup. But if you found that way, good for you. You know, that's fucking great.
That's so cool. I really like the way you said that there are no rules, because I think it's very liberating to see life this way. I feel like the moment you realize that like there's this traditional path, which is safe, there's a high probability of it all working out, and it's probably good for you if you want to stick to it. But nobody should be able to tell you that you can't do otherwise, and you can. I know a guy who lives in Bali, and he ran a Fortune 500 company, and he's a CEO. He was a CEO of that. And this is probably a good example of one extreme swing to the other.
Yeah.
But he went from that to working in what are they called? They're like these pyramids of chi, I think they're called. Essentially like sound baths and meditation and spiritual things. And he just works there as an instructor and says that he finds a lot more joy and meaning in that. And I can imagine that that's not a very traditional way of doing it, but if
Definitely.
That's what works for you and you prioritize money over it, that's fantastic. Do you see yourself doing something as crazy as that in the next 10 years, or just these examples just liberate you to make your own path?
Yeah, I think these examples liberate me. I don't see myself doing something like that, except for if I were to have made enough money to, I don't know, like my satisfaction, to where I would maybe do the research on what we mentioned very early in the beginning for metaphysics. So there is a scenario in which I would love to get like a cheap condo and where I will build my research office studio, wherever that may be, whatever that might be, and just learn as much as I possibly can, physics, maths, and then start studying or finding ways to devise further construction to metaphysics.
What's metaphysics?
So it's what I told you earlier, like 1 + 1 = 2, but we don't know why 1 + 1 works.
Is that more linked with philosophy, or is that like deeper science?
No, it's completely abstract. It's completely philosophical. There is no scientific base as much to it. In the school of philosophy, they brought it back in the 1200s after Aristotle first mentioned it. And then in the 1600s, there was like a massive piece by Immanuel Kant, another big philosopher, who further tried to progress it. But generally, since the 1200s, it's been turned down by the schools of science. Okay. Because it's just too abstract to make sense. And that's completely logical. But again, from a philosophical or intuitive perspective on what we mentioned earlier, when I read these books, something like clicked, something in my brain told me this makes sense. This could work.
Do you have any ideas what makes 1 + 1 2 or similar examples?
I don't know why velocity or mass and friction and all these things work the way they work. I know these are set rules that we recognize and know, but I don't know why they work. No, that's the premise of metaphysics.
Right. And are you just interested in trying to tackle that, or do you already have some ideas that you want to test and play around with?
I have no ideas. When I was 18 and very, very ambitious, the idea was by 30, I make enough money to be satisfied. Not a lot, not like fuck you money, let's say, but enough to... And then start the research on that and see where it goes in like an effort of purpose-seeking kind of thing. So that's something I could see myself doing. But also on what I told you, it's now been 7 countries or 8. Paris has been the most difficult city I've ever been to because it's the first one where I want to integrate as a citizen, but I don't speak the language of.
Oh, really?
Yes. And frankly, I'm a little bit tired with all the traveling here and there and being at 1,000 places at a time. It's a little bit difficult. Here in London, I had like a really good friend group with Alexi and like some other people, and we had to move again and so forth. So I'd like to also build my life now. I'm not as crazy as I was when I was younger to see and explore these places. But like you said, if I can outsource any kind of idea that I think has potential to make good revenue, I would definitely be down to explore Southeast Asia, for example, like Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines and Sri Lanka are now big hubs.
They're great.
Yeah, so stuff like this I could see myself doing.
And are you learning French? Are you trying to integrate? How's that going?
Yes, it's going well.
I find learning languages much more difficult now than I did 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think so. It's a bit crazy, how big of a task it becomes to learn a language. But I do pride myself on being a very good self-learner.
Cool. You do it yourself, with a teacher, with an app?
Yeah, by myself.
Wow, so that's really cool.
Same as in my industry, my degree was not useless, but in terms of like learning the deep stuff, let's say, or finding the solutions to the problems, these answers are not found in my university for my degree. So it's the same with French. I thoroughly enjoy the process of figuring out how to learn this thing by myself. So I've been learning it for 3 months. I'm almost B1 right now, which I think is quite good.
B1 is conversational, right? That's really good.
Yeah. So I'm very happy with like my progress to it and where I'm at with it. Almost B1, so almost conversational, not there yet. And
I hate admitting it, but it seems like all the teachers that told me when I was younger that the purpose of learning so many stuff is not the specific stuff, but to figure out how to learn something. Yeah. And I always hated this concept up until maybe like 2 years ago when I had to self-learn a lot of things. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is going well. This is I'm figuring it out. Why am I figuring it out? Oh, wait, because I've learned a bunch of other stuff that I'm not using, but it's a very big ego-crushing thing that seems like they were right all this time. Yeah. But I'm finding languages much more difficult. I started learning Spanish this year because I realized I learned Italian 4 years ago. My partner's Italian, and it was much easier. And I think in another 4 years, it's going to get even harder. Yeah. So it's one of those things where the best day to plant a tree was 10 years ago. Yeah. The next best day is today. Yeah. So
very similarly to you, also quite like a school rebel. I thought it was complete bullshit.
What's that?
School rebel,
yes.
Yeah, complete bullshit. I thought the system was completely corrupt and suited to something that had no avail. Rather, I found it incredibly cynical how it worked in general, that we're assessing kids from the minute they're born so that they can get a job when they finish school, but then they go to uni, blah, 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 blah. So completely didn't participate in it. But yeah, like you, very soul-crushing, very ego-crushing. It would have been nice to have had paid more attention to it. My path could have been different. Don't regret it. Don't want to have regrets. But definitely, like you said, if you haven't planted the seed 10 years ago, go for it today.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. Let's talk a little bit about crypto. You know so much about it, and it is very interesting. It's not something that I'm invested in because, as we discussed earlier, I'm very risk averse. But it's something that I fascinated. Before we started recording, I was saying how, in my eyes, crypto is like this ultimate big Kickstarter startup. Yeah. Where you invest into something that is an idea and how this project can bring benefits 10 years from now, 5 years from now. And you're almost doing something very similar to crowdfunding. That's not how it's generally viewed. And you said that it's not really how it is either. So talk me through it. I'd love to discuss it.
Yeah. Basically, in my case, crypto was always very appealing because we're bordering Turkey.
Yeah.
Greece had their financial collapse and Cyprus had their financial collapse. So these three countries had institutional bank collapsing. So a lot of people in Cyprus in 2009 also lost a massive chunk of their money.
Yep. Anyone in low-key bank having money, ouch.
Yep. And yeah, I know a lot of people that were affected by that. Same in Greece and same in Turkey, same in Argentina, same with the pesos. There's a lot of countries where you haven't done anything wrong, but you are completely being blamed and ruined from a financial capacity based on how your country performs.
Yeah.
And I don't know, as a little bit more of like a globalist, let's say, in my opinion, and also being subject to losing a massive amount of money that my parents have worked for a long time, it was incredibly appealing from the start. The idea of banking seems a little bit out of date to me, maybe radical, maybe not, but the idea that we can do decentralized peer-to-peer trading without the middleman, because that's what a bank is what appealed me the most into crypto and Bitcoin.
Is all cryptocurrency, or are they, or is just that a subsection of crypto?
So this is Bitcoin. This is the theory and idea of Bitcoin, that it's a network.
Okay.
That is basically able to transact in very massive volumes. So even like if you were to move 100, 200, 300K from your bank account, first you need approval, and then there's also quite a fee. Whereas with crypto, it's done in 10 seconds and nobody's there to tell you yes or no. It's your own money. And
governments must hate this.
Yeah, they've now done a lot of stable coins, which in crypto is crypto coins backed by the dollar, the euro, and so forth. And there's even companies doing stable coins, like there's PayPal USD, which is literally like a crypto from PayPal.
Yeah.
That is backed by the USD.
Okay.
Or PayPal, I'm not too sure on its specifics.
And when you say backed, that essentially means that they have the amount that the market cap is stored so they can pay it out? No. What is backed?
So they work almost the same as a bank, right?
Yeah.
So I probably need to do a little more research on the stablecoins, but through my understanding, they work the same as a bank, which is you are able to use that currency, which is like either USDC, USDT, USDY, PayPal USD, EuroX. These are all like stablecoin currencies.
Yeah.
And these are funded institutions that either get funding through source B, A, C, D, E, and then they generate yield through cryptocurrency, blockchain investments and funds, very similar to how a bank would operate. But there's quite literally no limits or no drawbacks. And if you want to borrow, lend, or anything like that, it's all done through smart contracts on the blockchain. So there literally needs to not be a middle person negotiating that. So even if you've done a mortgage, it's all done automatically, or not a mortgage per se. You can't get a mortgage, but you can borrow and lend on margin, which means that if you get liquidated, you're done, but you face the consequences immediately. Unlike a bank where if you do a mortgage and you can't repay it, very many cases you don't know what happens 40 years later because people are about to die now.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's interesting. And your personal interest in crypto has come essentially out of that?
So that was the start. And then the second thing where I went big and all in was Ethereum. I put every single thing that I made in Ethereum, or to a very massive portion. I had some Bitcoin in Ethereum at the time, but mostly in Ethereum. And basically the idea in 2019 to 2020 was that Ethereum was going to become the metaverse. I'm sure you heard that keyword about a few years ago.
Metaverse is what Facebook was working on, the biggest failed startup. Is that the same metaverse?
Yeah, very much so. So basically, Ethereum, aside from being a blockchain that handles transactions, so you're able to have smart contracts and you're able to transact with me online without middlemen. It also offers capacities where you can use it in-game. Everything can be transacted in-game as well with Ethereum. So the idea is that a lot of the gaming people, because I played a lot of games when I was younger, we're going to make games where the currency that you would earn would be a play to earn kind of thing.
Yeah, I've seen those. And then they use your device to mine the crypto.
Yeah.
Pretty cool idea.
In a way, that's like one of the things of how they would make it work. There's a lot of institutions / gaming devs and companies that have tried to make what is called tokenomics. So even Ethereum and Solana, they have tokenomics of how supply is distributed. And like how I understood it at the time is like, let's say Rockstar GTA makes Grand Theft Auto 6. Instead of getting 100% of the revenue, they allocated 30% of their revenue to the coin that they make. And then while you're playing GTA, you can either get rewarded for that and get that coin in real currency, or you can just like earn some USD, some money, whatever.
Interesting.
So what got me completely invested into it was that I can play games and make money.
Yeah. I feel like it's a good marketing trick.
I think it's an amazing marketing trick because gaming is set to 10x from today and in 10 years' time.
You think so?
It's the projected stats. It's not my...
it's already pretty huge.
Yeah.
Why do you think that change will come? Because AI will make some really immersive games? Or?
So I'm not sure it will come. I'm just looking at the stats. Lately I've been more and more reluctant with how games are headed. But in 10 years or like 4 years ago, I genuinely... And it has happened, from 4 or 5 years ago. 1/3 of people play games now, either on their phone and whatnot. But... yeah, like now apps are becoming more popular than games again on mobile, which was a big portion of the gamers. But basically my understanding and idea back in the day when I was fully invested in it was that we would have games like Sims and fully operated simulated VR worlds where you would feel like you're in the real world, but with superpowers because it's a video game.
Yeah.
So that's literally it. Like I just thought we would separate physical life to digital life, and we have done it now. Social media has literally like taken over, but I thought it would have had happened at a higher effect on that side than what it is now with like TikTok and all this other social media that's around.
I really wish that crypto was a little bit more accessible because there are so many genius nuances that just are so hard to come across. Even now you're telling me these things and I grasp the rough concept of it. But I wonder why. Banking is very complicated, and the way that money and like traditional financial institution works are really, really, really complex and multi-layered. But they are accessible to people. You can walk into a bank and say, hey, I've got this amount of money. Can I put them onto it? And they'll tell you, yes. You've got 3 options. There's a current account. There's a savings account. You can take out a loan. You can invest them in stocks. That's it. Within an hour, you kind of know what to do. With crypto, it seems like you got to be really deep into the rabbit hole in order to kind of use it. And it's a huge opportunity, but I wonder if there's a way to make it accessible. Like, do you open a physical on-the-ground branch? Why is it so complicated?
Yeah, there could actually be a good idea, the physical branches. But I think the preconception of it being complicated is a stereotype more than it is the reality.
Okay.
But there are two sections of which later on it does become complicated. So crypto, on how to buy it, is divided into two forms. So centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges.
Right. What's the difference?
The difference is that very similarly to banks, in centralized exchanges, those institutions hold your money. So if they were to go broke, you lose your money.
So CFD versus ETFs.
No, because there's no leverage or margins into these centralized exchanges holding your money. You can literally spot invest with very, very little fees. I think like, I don't know, I pay like €5 for 10K, something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I should change provider.
So decentralized exchanges, one of them is Binance. Crypto is like a baby in terms of like how young the industry is.
Yeah.
So there were a few blowbacks. Maybe you've heard of some Altman and...
yeah, I mean, the whole thing went bankrupt and now I'm still getting emails. I had like 10 years in an account with... what was the company called?
Something...
FTX?
FTX,
yes. Yeah, I had like 10 years with them, so it's like I don't care, but I still get emails how they're working through everybody who lost money and it will come back to them. And
3 years later, they're now still trying to repay on the counter deals that other companies bought their shares for. So they sold, for example, Solana at $60 few months back, but Solana right now is like $200. So people did get their money back when Solana was 60 at the time, but 3 years later, it would have been
200.
Yeah. So that's the risk involved with centralized exchanges, but the risk with decentralized exchanges is that how it works is like you go to the bank and they sign you a contract, and it's very similar to doing a decentralized exchange. There is a contract and you sign it. But just as sometimes the bank can be complex, scammers, hackers can also be complex with their contracts. So, for example, they can drain your decentralized wallet and so forth, which is why some people choose centralized exchanges over decentralized. And then we call them maxis, which are like people who believe that Bitcoin will be bigger than the USD. They just keep it. There's this USB, it's called a ledger, and they literally put all their money in this USB. There's a 24-word key code, and they never access it. It's completely offline.
Well, have you heard of this like quantum computer that came out, and it can crack any code? Because whatever it would take like 10,000 years with regular computer, it takes 15 seconds. That could be a problem.
So I've heard this a lot, but then if there's a quantum computer that has the computing power to do that, in traditional banking, these people are 10 times more fucked than anyone in crypto. Yeah,
that's a very good point.
So it's not until there comes a technology where quantum computers are that good to crack crypto accounts, because it's a peer-to-peer network, right? So imagine like having a VPN, but then like every 1 second cracking that code changes kind of. So it's very different to like a traditional bank account or anything like that. So if quantum computers can do that, they will first take everything else and then crypto.
Okay, so crypto comes last. Oh, interesting. Yeah, actually that does make a lot of sense. Yeah, we touched on AI in crypto, and these I feel like are similar in the sense that I find it always difficult to evaluate people's opinions when they talk about the future of them, both with AI and crypto, because the people that are deeply invested in AI or the people that are deeply invested in crypto say very positive things about it. They obviously believe in it. They have a financial interest in them. And then the people that are not touching on it at all say that like AI will take all of our jobs, or that crypto will become sand and stardust, but then they don't have their money into it. It's very very hard to find this middle ground, which kind of like gives maybe a more balanced view, which I always sense I'm getting from you here.
Thanks.
And I would love to approach it, and I'd love to kind of see what, especially with AI, I'm very curious in it. What the potential things that are going to happen. But then, yeah, people say that what's the name of the ChatGPT guy?
Sam Altman.
Sam Altman. He's saying one thing's on camera, and actually to his close circle, he's saying completely other things. And I've heard that from a lot of sources, which doesn't mean it's true. There's a chance that's true.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think about specifically like AI and what the world will be like in 10 years?
Yeah. So actually, I think I have a very good response to it. Have you ever heard about 1984 by George Orwell?
Yes.
Have you read it, or do you know the premise?
I read it when I was really young, so maybe I don't know it core to core. But yeah, it's the essentially this imaginative communism, if it works.
Communism, fascism, something like that.
Yeah.
But the idea, or where I'm trying to get at, is like my girlfriend would like. We talked about this book a few times, and she was like, "How could this man have possibly even like guessed what could happen 50, 60 years later,
pretty accurate,
or 100 years later?" Because he wrote it in 1920s. And for me, the answer to it is a little bit more simple. She disagrees with my point, but like I told you earlier, I like graphs, I like stats, I like data. And I like probabilities. So just like George Orwell, there were about 100 or maybe even 1,000 other authors that wrote these books. And on a probabilistic basis of how things happened, this guy was more accurate than the rest. So I think we can all have an idea of where things can go, but the probabilities are so complex on how the universe, the world, or whatever is going to revolve around what and with, that no matter what you guess, it's most likely that it will not be accurate. And it's something to keep in mind a lot as an investor. I think it's also like really important for me to put my ego down, which is why I'm okay with high risk investments, because I'm okay with like a 30% loss. And if I assess today that it's no longer my thesis and it doesn't work on how I thought it would work 4 years back, I'll cut it immediately without a second thought.
That's a really good way of looking at it. It reminds me of this idea where 100 people have made a different ritual dance like before a given night, and then their whole village burned down and one person survived, and that person thought that his ritual dance is clearly the correct one.
Yeah.
It's not. It's the error of survivor.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing, which fits into what you said, is like putting the ego down. One thing I'm always really worried about is like, I should really not miss the whole AI wave. I should really not miss the where the trends are going. But then in the 1910s or in the 1810s, when were roads and cars invented? I should check up on that. But when they were just starting to do, when the engine was just first invented, if somebody back in the time was thinking, how am I going to like get on top of all of this and not miss out on all the action? And 20 years later, there are roads everywhere and cars everywhere. Like it just integrates very naturally into our everyday life. It doesn't really, you can't miss it unless you live in a forest. You know where this is going?
I disagree a little bit.
Oh, tell me about it.
For example, when I was a teenager, my grandfather would literally pay me to press the open button on the computer.
Yeah.
And I just think like it's an exaggerative example, but in regards to getting ahead with the tech, yes, it will be imposed on you, and yes, you will know about it. But if you want to profit from it, or if you're trying to make money out of that opportunity, there is FOMO, let's say. The FOMO is real. And yeah, it will be imposed on you 20 years later. And yeah, there will still be opportunities 20 years later. But it's just about like where it's at today in this sense, in my opinion. However, to add to that, if you've got something that's working for you, it doesn't necessarily mean it will affect how your business works, or that your business will improve if you implement it within your business. So I just think it's like finding that balance a little bit, to just like know what's happening, have an idea. Maybe it could help me, maybe it couldn't help me. But yeah, no need to feel FOMO, especially if you're in a good place in any point here, there, and that.
Yeah, I agree. If you go on the beach and you have a pina colada and you don't pay attention to anything, you will lose out on that part of life and pretty much every other part of life. But then also no point stressing out about it, because as long as you take your opportunities where they come, you'll be able to take them. One last thing I want to ask you before we jump off. You mentioned quite early in when we were talking that the generational gap is already pretty huge from us to our parents, and it was much smaller, let's say 100 years ago. And your assumption is that moving forward, the gap between generations will increase even more and more and more. Why do you think that is, and what can we do?
What can we do to mitigate it?
Maybe, or why do you think that it's inevitable to mitigate it? What are your thoughts on it?
It's inevitable. Yeah, I think it's very there is a chart on how quickly humanity has progressed, not just in technology, but in terms of like how day-to-day life is lived. So the chart is kind of like this.
Yeah.
It's a parabola. And in the last 50 years, 50, we've had more progression than we've ever had since 7080.
Yeah.
So naturally, with where we're headed, I think it's not like the parabola is going to go down, rather the other way around, especially with AI and a mass concentration of data. What will be out there will be completely different to what we had. Maybe the foundations might stick a little bit, but maybe not. And by the time, I don't know, like in 20, 30 years' time, I think the entire layout of all of this will be completely different. And what do we do about it? I think it depends on you and how you want to raise your kids, or how close you want to be with them, or where you want to integrate them. Because, again, like me and you who've lived in Cyprus, it's also a much more simple life, and you don't need to worry about these things. So, you have the choice in all these ways. But if you like take your kid to a school in London, it's probably a little bit better to be a bit more acquainted with what's happening on a day-to-day basis.
So you think it's more of like history repeating itself, where there's a big jump in progression, rather than something that's the first time we're experiencing?
Yes. I think just like
I haven't heard that before, actually. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, just like the chart went parabolic in the last 50 years, I think it will go even more parabolic.
Yeah?
Yeah, of course.
I always find it difficult to understand where you're in the chart with anything, with business, with stocks, with these kinds of trend. Like, I sometimes think that I'm in the middle of things, but I'm actually on the top.
Yeah, that's the sadness and the beauty of it. Like, you can never know. You might literally be in your peak within your business era, or you might just be starting. But that's, I think, like where you can also listen a little bit to your intuition, and rather, if you feel like that's the top, pull back a little bit, or if you feel like you're just starting, go ahead and go crazy with it.
Andy, this was beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate the time. Before we jump off, do you want to tell the 2.5 people that are watching if how they can get in touch with you if they're interested in graphic design? What's the best way to get in touch and become a client?
Maybe you can just put
absolutely
my email or socials in your description. We've got our company's website, so if anyone wants to get in touch, you can also find it there.
And remind us in a couple of words, what is it that you do?
We specialize in high quality production. We're building our own digital IPs. So we've got a nice little strategy of how we're trying to enter the market. But essentially, we can do high quality visual productions using 3D.
Good luck on that Netflix contract. I hope it works out. And if it doesn't, it's for the better, because you've got bigger things to come.
Yeah.
So all the best. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.